The sun wasn't even up yet when Sarah heard the scratching at the front door of Oakwood Animal Rescue. It was soft at first, almost like leaves brushing against the glass. But then it came again, a little louder this time, more desperate. She walked to the door and looked through the window. What she saw made her heart stop. An old golden dog sat there on the welcome mat. His fur was soaked from the morning rain. His paws were muddy and torn. But his eyes were looking right at her, like he'd been searching for her his whole life. Sarah opened the door slowly. The dog didn't run. He didn't bark. He just looked up at her with the most tired, hopeful face she'd ever seen, and then he did something that made tears spring to her eyes. He lifted one trembling paw and gently placed it on her shoe, like he was asking, begging, "Please let me stay." Oakwood Animal Rescue wasn't fancy. It sat on the edge of a small town in Oregon where everyone knew everyone.
The building was old but clean.
The kennels were warm, and the people who worked there had hearts bigger than the mountains that surrounded them. Sarah had been working there for almost 15 years. She'd seen thousands of animals come through those doors. Puppies with wiggly tails, cats with attitude, birds that sang in the morning. But her favorite animals to care for were the seniors, the old dogs that nobody wanted anymore. There was something special about them. They didn't jump or bark for attention. They just wanted a warm bed and a gentle hand. They'd look at you with eyes that had seen so much life, eyes that said thank you with every breath. Every morning, Sarah unlocked the doors at 7. She'd make her coffee, check on each animal, fill water bowls, scatter kibble. She'd talk to them all like they were old friends, because to her they were. The rescue center had a reputation in town. When people had senior dogs they couldn't care for anymore, they thought of Oakwood first. Sarah made sure every gray-muzzled dog found comfort in their final years. She believed they deserved that much. Buddy was 12 years old. His coat used to shine like gold in the sunlight. Now it was faded. More cream than gold. His muzzle was completely white. His eyes had that cloudy look that comes with age. But Buddy remembered when he was young, when his legs didn't ache, when he could run through the backyard chasing butterflies with Emma and Jake. The 2 kids who grew up with him, the family who loved him for 10 beautiful years. He remembered birthday parties where he wore a silly hat, Christmas mornings with wrapping paper everywhere, summer nights when the whole family sat on the porch and he'd rest his head on someone's lap. Those were the best days, days filled with love and laughter and belonging. Then everything changed. It happened slowly at first. The kids got older. They went to college. The house got quieter. Then Mom got a new job in another state, far away. The family had long talks in the living room. Talks that Buddy didn't understand but could feel in his bones. One day they packed boxes. Lots of boxes. The house that had been full of life became full of cardboard and tape. Buddy watched from his bed in the corner, confused, worried. Dad knelt down next to him one evening. His eyes were red. "We can't take you with us, boy," he whispered. "The new place doesn't allow dogs. We tried everything. I'm so sorry." Buddy licked his hand. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the sadness. The next week, they took him to Mr. Peterson's house, the neighbor 3 doors down. Mr. Peterson was nice enough. He had a fenced yard. He promised to take good care of Buddy. The family hugged him one last time. Emma cried into his fur. Jake couldn't even look at him. Then they left, just like that. The only family Buddy had ever known drove away in a moving truck and didn't come back. Living with Mr. Peterson was okay at first. He fed Buddy every day, gave him water, let him sleep on an old blanket in the laundry room. But Mr. Peterson worked long hours. He left before sunrise, came home after dark. Buddy spent most days alone in the backyard, staring at the fence, waiting. For what? He wasn't sure anymore. Maybe waiting for his real family to come back. But they never did. The loneliness was heavy, like a weight on his chest. He'd lie in the grass and remember the way Emma would read books out loud while he rested beside her. Remember the way Jake would sneak him treats under the dinner table. Remember feeling wanted. Now he just felt forgotten. But there was one memory that kept coming back stronger than the others. A memory from years ago, back when Mom used to volunteer somewhere special. She'd take Buddy with her sometimes on Saturday mornings. It was a building that smelled like dogs. Lots of dogs. And there were people there with kind voices. They'd pet him and give him treats. There were other animals everywhere. Cats sleeping in sunny windows. Dogs playing in yards. Birds singing from cages. Buddy remembered feeling safe there. He remembered the woman with the gentle hands who always gave him extra attention. He remembered the warmth, the kindness, the feeling that everyone there was cared for. That place had a name, Oakwood Animal Rescue, and Buddy remembered how to get there. It was a Tuesday morning when Buddy made his decision. Mr. Peterson left for work at 5:30 like he always did. The sky was still dark, stars fading into gray. Buddy had been watching the fence for weeks. There was a spot near the back corner where the wood had rotted. Just a little gap at the bottom. He'd been testing it, pushing at it with his nose when Mr. Peterson wasn't looking. This morning he pushed harder. The old wood gave way. The gap got bigger, just big enough. Buddy's joints screamed as he squeezed through. His hips weren't what they used to be. Arthritis made every movement hurt, but he pushed through anyway, because staying here hurt more than his body ever could. He stood on the other side of the fence and took a breath. The morning air was cold. It stung his nose. But underneath the cold he caught a scent, a direction, a memory of where he needed to go. His legs were stiff as he started walking, one paw in front of the other, slow but steady. He moved through the quiet neighborhood, past houses still dark with sleeping families, past yards with sleeping dogs who didn't know what it felt like to be forgotten. Buddy knew the way. The memory was old but clear. Turn left at the park, past the elementary school, down Main Street, through the older part of town, then out toward the hills. 5 miles, that's how far it was. 5 miles might not sound like much, but for a 12-year-old dog with bad hips and tired legs, it might as well have been 500. Still, Buddy walked on. The first mile was the easiest. The streets were familiar. These were the roads Mom used to drive down. Buddy recognized the smell of the bakery on the corner, the sound of the creek that ran behind the library, the big oak tree in the park where kids played. A few early morning joggers passed him. One woman slowed down. "Hey, puppy," she called. "Are you lost?" Buddy kept walking. He wasn't lost. For the first time in months, he knew exactly where he was going. His paws hit the sidewalk in a rhythm. Step, 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 each one sending a small spike of pain up his legs. But he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. By the time he reached the end of the first mile, the sun was starting to peek over the mountains. The sky turned from black to purple to pink. It would have been beautiful if Buddy had the energy to notice. He stopped under a big tree to catch his breath. His chest heaved. His tongue hung out. Drool dripped onto the grass. His back legs were shaking, but when he looked up, he could see the road stretching ahead. And somewhere at the end of that road was the place he remembered, the place that meant safety. Home. He got up, legs protesting, and kept walking. The second and third miles were harder, much harder. The neighborhoods ended and busier streets began. Cars whooshed past. Fast and loud, Buddy stayed as close to the edge as he could. His heart pounded every time a truck roared by. At one intersection he had to wait. The light was red. Cars blocked his path. A small group of people waited at the crosswalk. They noticed him. "Is that dog alone?" a man asked. "Should we call someone?" A young woman pulled out her phone. The light changed. Buddy crossed quickly. He heard them talking behind him, but he didn't stop. If someone caught him now, they'd take him back to Mr. Peterson's, back to that lonely yard, back to waiting for a family that would never return. No, he had to keep going. Around the third mile, a kind older man sitting on a bench called out to him, "Hey there, buddy. You look thirsty." He poured water from his bottle into his hand. Let it pool there. Buddy's throat was so dry it hurt. He walked over and lapped at the water gratefully. It was cool and perfect. "Where are you headed, friend?" the man asked, running a hand over Buddy's damp fur. Buddy licked his hand once. "A thank you." Then he turned and kept walking. The man watched him go with a worried frown. The sky opened up around the 4th mile. Rain started to fall. Light at first, then heavier. Cold drops soaked through Buddy's coat. Within minutes he was drenched. His fur stuck to his body. He was shivering. The rain made everything harder. The sidewalk was slippery. His paws lost traction. He slipped once, almost fell. His old legs barely caught him. But the rain also brought something else. Scents. The rain made all the smells stronger. And Buddy caught something on the wind. Something familiar. The scent of the hills. The scent of the road that led to Oakwood. He was getting close. Mile 4 turned into Mile 5. The neighborhoods were gone now. Buddy walked along a country road. Fields on one side, woods on the other. His body was screaming at him to stop. His hips felt like they were filled with broken glass. One of his front paws was bleeding. He'd stepped on something sharp a mile back. His breathing was labored, each breath a struggle. His vision was getting blurry around the edges. From exhaustion, from pain, from sheer will pushing a body that had nothing left to give. But then he saw it. Up ahead, a building with a familiar shape. A sign that he couldn't read but recognized. a fence with kennels behind it. Oakwood Animal Rescue. Something sparked in Buddy's chest. Not quite energy. More like hope. Pure, desperate hope. His tail, which had been hanging low for hours, lifted just slightly. He tried to wag it. It barely moved, but the effort was there. The final 100 yards took forever. Every step was agony. Buddy was limping badly now, favoring his back right leg. His head hung low, but his eyes stayed fixed on that building. He could hear dogs barking in the distance. Morning feeding time. The sounds made his heart ache with longing. Community, companionship, care. 50 yards. 25 yards. 10. The front door of the rescue center came into view. A blue door with a window. A welcome mat that said, "All Paws welcome." Buddy collapsed on that mat. His legs gave out completely. But he'd made it. He'd actually made it. He lifted his head with the last bit of strength he had, and he scratched at the door, soft at first, then a little harder. "Please, please let me in. Please let me stay." When Sarah opened that door and saw Buddy sitting there, soaked and shaking and looking up at her with those pleading eyes, her mind raced through 100 questions. Where did he come from? How did he get here? Was he hurt? But her heart knew only one thing. This dog needed help. Now. "Oh, sweetheart," she breathed, kneeling down. "What happened to you?" Buddy lifted that paw and placed it on her shoe. The gesture was so gentle, so polite. Like he was saying please without words. Like he was asking permission to be saved. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She'd been doing this job for 15 years. She thought she'd seen everything. But this was different. This dog had come here, had chosen this place, had somehow walked through rain and pain and exhaustion to ask for help. "Come on, baby," she whispered. "Let's get you inside." She tried to help him stand, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. They just trembled and buckled, so Sarah did what she had to do. She scooped him up in her arms, all 60 pounds a wet, tired, hurting dog, and she carried him inside. The other staff members rushed over. Jenny grabbed towels. Marcus called the vet. Lisa started preparing a warm kennel with extra blankets. Sarah laid Buddy down gently on a soft bed in the exam room. She wrapped him in towels and started drying his soaked fur. Her hands moved carefully over his body, checking for injuries. She found the bleeding paw, the swollen hips, the raw spots where his collar had rubbed during the long walk. "You brave, brave boy," she murmured. "How far did you walk to get here?" Buddy's eyes were closed now, his body finally letting go of the tension he'd been holding for hours. But his tail gave one small thump against the bed. "I'm here. I made it. I'm safe." Dr. Chen arrived within 20 minutes. She examined Buddy thoroughly, checked his heart, his breathing, his joints. She cleaned and bandaged his paw, gave him fluids for dehydration, medicine for the pain and inflammation. "He's exhausted," Dr. Chen said quietly, "and he's got arthritis that must be very painful. But he's a fighter. He's going to be okay." Sarah stayed with Buddy all morning. She didn't leave his side. She just sat there with her hand on his head, letting him know he wasn't alone anymore, letting him rest. When Buddy woke up several hours later, he wasn't sure where he was at first. The last thing he remembered was scratching at a door. A kind face, gentle hands, then nothing. Now he was lying on the softest bed he'd felt in months. Warm blankets surrounded him. The pain in his body had faded to a dull ache instead of the screaming agony from before. And there was a woman sitting next to him. The woman from the door. Sarah smiled when she saw his eyes open. "Hey there, friend. You're safe now. You're at Oakwood. Do you remember this place?" Buddy's tail wagged, slowly at first, then faster. Yes, he remembered. This was the place. The safe place. The place where forgotten animals found love again. Over the next few days, Sarah worked to find out where Buddy had come from. She checked for a microchip, found one, called the number. It went to his original family, the one that had moved away. When Sarah explained that Buddy had walked 5 miles in the rain to reach the rescue center, there was silence on the other end of the phone, then crying. "We thought he'd be okay with our neighbor," Mom said through tears. "We thought he'd adjust. I didn't know he remembered Oakwood. I used to take him there when I volunteered, years ago." He remembered. "He did," Sarah said softly. "He remembered, and he chose to come here." There was a long pause. "Can you keep him, please? Give him the life he deserves? We can't take him back only to leave him alone again." Sarah looked over at Buddy. He was sleeping peacefully in his kennel, curled up on soft blankets, safe, warm, loved. "We'll take care of him," Sarah promised. "He's home now." Buddy never left Oakwood Animal Rescue. Sarah made sure of it. She officially adopted him herself. But really, he belonged to everyone there. He became the rescue's official greeter. Every morning, he'd sit by the front door, waiting to meet new animals as they arrived. He'd touch his nose to theirs, a gentle welcome. "You're safe here. I know what you've been through, but it's going to be okay now." The other staff members fell in love with him. Marcus would sneak him extra treats. Lisa would brush his coat until it shined almost gold again. Jenny would read to him in the afternoons. He'd rest his head in her lap and listen to her voice, just like Emma used to do. Buddy's story spread through the town. People came to visit him, to pet him, to hear about the elderly dog who walked 5 miles through the rain to ask for help. Who remembered kindness? Who knew where to find home when he lost everything else? Sarah told his story at fundraisers, shared photos of him on social media, and every time people cried. Because Buddy's story wasn't just about a dog. It was about loyalty, about memory, about the desperate search for belonging, about never giving up, even when your body is breaking and the road is long and you're scared and alone. It was about finding your way home. On quiet evenings, Sarah would sit with Buddy in the office. He'd rest his head on her feet while she did paperwork. Sometimes she'd stop and just look at him, at this dog who had chosen them, who had walked through pain and exhaustion because he believed there was a place in this world where he belonged. "You taught us something, you know," she'd whisper to him. "You taught us that animals remember. They remember kindness. They remember love. And they remember where they felt safe." Buddy would wag his tail, content, happy, home. He spent his final years surrounded by love, by people who understood that senior dogs weren't disposable. That old age didn't mean worthless. That gray muzzles and cloudy eyes and stiff legs were just signs of a life lived. A life that deserved comfort and dignity and peace. When Buddy finally passed away at 15, peacefully in his sleep, the whole town mourned. They held a memorial at the rescue center. People came from all over to share their memories, to talk about the dog who never gave up, who walked 5 miles to ask for help, who showed everyone what it means to fight for the life you deserve. They planted a tree in his honor at the front of Oakwood. Under it, they placed a stone. It read, "Buddy, you walked 5 miles to find home. You taught us that home isn't a place. It's where you're loved." Sarah still tells Buddy's story. To every person who walks through those blue doors thinking about adopting, to every family who wonders if they should take a chance on a senior dog, to everyone who has ever felt forgotten or alone or like they didn't belong anywhere. Buddy walked 5 miles, she says, through rain and pain, with bleeding paws and a hurting body, because he remembered that somewhere in this world there was a place that would love him. And he was right. She pauses, looks at the memorial tree through the window, its branches reaching toward the sky. Animals know, she continues, they know kindness when they see it. They remember it, and they'll fight to find their way back to it. Our job is to be that kind place, that safe place, that home they're searching for. Every day, new animals come through Oakwood's doors. Dogs and cats and rabbits and birds, all looking for the same thing Buddy was looking for that rainy morning. Safety, love, home. And because of Buddy's 5-mile walk, because of his courage and memory and hope, every single one of them finds it. If this story warmed your heart, share it with someone who loves animals. Share it with someone who needs to remember that it's never too late to find your way home. Share it with someone who understands that the most powerful thing in the world isn't strength or speed. It's loyalty, it's memory, it's love. And if you can, support your local animal rescue, especially the senior animals, the ones with gray muzzles and tired eyes, the ones who remember what it's like to be loved and lost. They're waiting for their 5-mile walk to end, waiting for someone to open the door and say, "You're safe now. You're home." Be that person. Be that place. Be the reason someone's journey finally ends in love. Because that's what Buddy would want. That's what every animal waiting in a shelter wants. Not pity. Not charity. Just a chance. A chance to be remembered. A chance to belong. A chance to be home.